talking about a Memphis woman, black woman, man, finds an alleged 20-year-old up under her 13-year-old daughter's bed. She come home. We talking about one, and so it's a lot of speculation as to uh did she was she in the right for shooting the boy. And I say boy, he wasn't a boy, he was a man. He's supposedly allegedly 20 years old. Now you already know, man, when you got a 13-year-old daughter, that you gonna be so enraged. You feel what I'm saying? You gonna be so enraged, to find some nigga that's 20 years old under a 13-year-old bed. That's out of pocket, first and foremost. But when you got to, and at the same time, these peoples, they don't give a damn. They want you to, walk the line with every rule, with every law. And so did the boy threaten her life? Did he threaten? That's what they ask. Because allegedly he was shot in the back. That's what they saying. They saying he was shot in the back of his head. So I don't know what that situation, but I could imagine somebody being infuriated. But shit, you at the same time you got to do shit accordingly. You know what I'm saying? So one thing, if the nigga break, in which he is, the nigga out of pocket for sure. His ass, if nothing else, if you could have called some niggas, put some knuckles on his ass. You know what I'm saying? But now you didn't shot the boy and killed him, and in the back of the head. So so obviously, he was trying to leave or something. This is what they say. This don't make nothing right about what's happening with the girl. What need to be, what they trying to see was their altercation that required you to take the nigga life. You know what I'm saying? Now, like I say, to all the family out there, and I already know, it's a certain, rage that will come over you, and if, a man probably gonna beat the nigga to death, put hands and knuckles and all type of shit on his ass, but when you take a motherfucker life, you got to be, he got to be, be in the process of trying to harm you, or, yeah, you got to, he got to be. That's what the law gonna say. Now, everybody else could have a certain kind of feeling about it, and so on and so. But this woman is looking at, murder one. She looking at murder one, and $100,000 bond and shit. And so, that's a crazy, crazy situation. That's a crazy, because the woman probably upset, and anyway, that a 13-year-old would be at home. You got to understand. These kids need supervision. They need super fucking vision. And at that age, being, to call, and be on, online and all of that shit, you being online and all these predators is online and shit looking for vulnerable, young girls and shit that they could violate, especially if they ain't got no mamas and no daddies that's on their ass, making sure, ain't no foul shit happening on them phones. Cause shit, these niggas is treacherous. Not only will they violate, they'll take the girl life. You know what I'm saying? On some sick shit. They don't know who they fucking with. Now I don't know the whole deepness to the story. Did they know this nigga? You know what I'm saying? Is this the first time the nigga was over there? That all them questions got to be asked. That don't make none of it right, nigga. You a predator. You know what I'm saying? You was a fucking predator, and but at the same time, we say, well, what a nigga gonna do and this, that, but you don't want to go to motherfucking jail. You know, you don't want to go to motherfucking jail for life. If nothing else, putting hands on his ass. If it was a man in there to beat the nigga all the way to the hospital. You know what I'm saying? But and then, you know, beat his ass all the way to the hospital. You know, but when you take a motherfucker life and shit, you know, you got to deal with the possibility. Jail is an option. Jail is an option. Jail is a goddamn option. Yes, it is. It is. But at the same time, you know, we say that and we do. And believe me, it is an option. It's a motherfucking option. But do it right. Do it right. Don't do it wrong. You know, why should, if you're gonna motherfucker put it in it, you know, you're gonna be bossy like that, put it between his eyes. You know, put it between the motherfucking eyes then. Let a motherfucker look a motherfucker in his eye. And you shoot a motherfucker in the back is something different though. You know, I'm just saying for the legality, not for the principle. I don't want y'all to get caught up in the principle. We already understand the principle. You know, it's a way of taking the trash out though. It is. It's a way to take the trash out. You know, where you can have some standing where it's, oh, you know, boom. You know, it is what it is. You know, you don't let motherfucker walk up, you don't let motherfucker walk up out of it, you know, and then pop him in the motherfucking back. You know what I'm saying? Catch a motherfucker come when he come, you know. And I'm not trying to say, but nigga, you know, I'm just saying, when you violate somebody, baby, you know, that is an option. You know, I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't be in the same motherfucking predicament. You know what I'm saying? But I probably have more, you know, where I probably would want to motherfucker put my hands, you know what I'm saying? Beat a motherfucker to death, you know? Damn, you know, if nothing else, you know what I'm saying? Beat a motherfucker damn, you know, to the deathbed, you know? But, you know, you don't want the baby to lose a mama, you know, at the same damn time. And with this system, that's a possibility. You know, so yeah, it is an option, but at the same time, when you thinking in clarity, you know what I'm saying, knowing how to do something, because a lot of times that's why they tell you, if you're gonna get a motherfucking gun, learn how to use that motherfucker. Meaning know the law, know the rules and regulations and all of that, how to do shit. You understand what I'm saying? So when you whip the motherfucker, you know, okay, if I'm in this predicament, this is the legality. You know, and if if I had to hit this motherfucker, at least, you know, the motherfucker was coming towards me. You know what I'm saying? You know, the motherfucker was coming toward me or anything. You got a better chance that way than hitting a motherfucker in the back of the skull. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, obviously you was behind the motherfucker to hit him in the skull, you know, in the back of his head, which means he was out of, any position, or he could have been, say he about to turn around. I don't know. But you hit a motherfucker in the back, you know what I'm saying? That just, you know, the man was trying to exit. You know, he was trying to exit up out of there. Yeah. You know, not a threat. You know what I'm saying? Not a threat. You know, but that's what it is. And so, you know, hopefully, you know, they saying that they not clear on how old the guy was neither. Whether he was 20 or whether he could have been younger than that, older than that. I don't think that they cleared how old the nigga was. Was he younger and shit or not? It don't make no difference. Nigga, you know what I'm saying? It don't make no motherfucking difference. But at the same time, you got to learn how to, you know, take the trash out. And when you learn it, then when that opportunity and you feel that, you know, it's, you know, then you in a better standing than you doing the shit the wrong way. You know, when you do it the wrong way, then here come all the other shit. Now you're locked down. You need 100,000 to get the fuck out. Oh yeah, you outside. You know what I'm saying? Man, listen here, man. I done heard motherfuckers on the street, polices and shit and all that. They said you hit a motherfucker on your porch, drag him in. That's what they say. Drag the motherfucker. You gonna have to see he outside. You know what I'm saying? You know, he outside. He leaving the premises. Or, you know, you too late. You know, that could be too late. Cause you now the motherfucker no longer a threat. You didn't hit the motherfucker in the back of the head. You know what I'm saying? When you had the motherfucker in the house, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm not saying take the man if that's your individual choice at that time. You know, and I'm being legal right now. You know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody, because everybody know what the deal is, what the dealio is. You know what I'm saying? We know how we feel about shit like this. We can't always say what the fuck we gonna do, and that's what's wrong with us. We always broadcast saying what the fuck we would do, and you know what I'm saying, instead of just doing it where it's only you and the Lord that know what happened. You know what I'm saying? So that leaves only you to tell on your motherfucking self. You know, but if you the type of motherfucker that gonna broadcast, they gonna say, man, didn't you just say you was gonna pull that nigga wig back? They gonna be like, man, you done already broadcasted yourself. You know, so that's one. Thank you, fam. You gotta stop broadcast. We know what it is. You know what I'm saying? You catch a motherfucker and you don't let the motherfucker get out. If that's the first time. You know what I'm saying? I saw a motherfucker in there and the lights was out. You know what I'm saying? The lights was out. I heard shit shaking and shit. And nigga, I just let off. You know? Lights was off. I didn't see. I just heard shit shaking and I just got scared. I feared for my life and I just let off. That's it. You know, now you won't take, you know, you got a better chance than motherfucking letting the man get out on him and then you don't even hit him between the eyes. You didn't knock him, you didn't hit the man in the back of the head. Okay. But, you know, that's just a fucked up situation. But anyway, family, we just getting started for this evening. Hit that Patreon. I got some fire over there, too raw for YouTube. You already know what it is. General Seti, Etsy, One Stop, KingSeti.com. All the links is there, man. Support. I see y'all in a minute. Black Pop.